Hi again, this is Sharon from Mad Paper Crush. Today I'm making these cute little mini folio booklets. I thought it would be fun. One of my intentions for November is being grateful, having gratitude for the people around me, the things that I have, those kinds of things. So I made this little mini booklet as a way to help me remember that throughout the month and maybe even jot down some notes about different things that I'm grateful for throughout the month. So we're going to be making this little booklet, and I'll give you a quick little flip through here. We're going to be making this one, and you can see you open it up, and there's a pocket on the side here, and then there's some small pages with a pocket up here, a little side pocket, a big pocket on the side. We have an envelope here with a pocket in the back. And there you can put stuff in your envelope, and then a triangle pocket at the back. So I hope that you'll join me as we make this fun little gratitude booklet here today. Let's go. Okay, so let's talk about what we need to get started. Any pattern paper that you have will be great. So I'm going to use my parlor and drawing room kits, my digital kits that I have in my shop. I'll link them down below if you'd like to check those out. But you could use any paper. You could use any pattern paper that you have, and it can even be single-sided, which is kind of why this is a fun project. So it's a way for you to possibly use up some single-sided pattern paper that you have left over. So you just pick a couple of pieces of paper. So as I went through my kits, I just picked out a couple that I thought, kind of matched, went together. I think I'm going to do the base of the entire mini book with these two. And then I'll probably use some of these in, embellishing, when we go back in to do some embellishing later, because I think they all look nice together. So let me just move those out of the way. So besides your starter pieces, so you need one that's at least 8 by 8 and another one that's at least 6 by 6. Now these are US letter size 8.5 by 11. So I'll be able to cut them down to the starter size that we need. Now to put the book together, we need glue, and I'll probably be using my glitter glue, possibly my Uhu stick, and then possibly some 3-in-1 glue. Just depends on what we're doing. So I'll probably also be doing some sewing on my sewing machine. You of course need your cutter, and I'm going to be using my scoreboard, but you could just use a ruler. You could just fold your papers. You don't necessarily need this scoreboard. And I'll probably also be using my bone folder to really crease my lines. So you could use a credit card or something as well. You don't necessarily have to have that tool. And I think that's all that we're going to need for the base. Now I'll probably be incorporating some scrap fabrics in here as well, but you certainly don't need to do that either. So I think that's all we need to get started. So let's go ahead and get going. Okay, so the outer part of the mini book is going to be 8 by 8. So I'm just going to take this piece that I have here and cut it down to 8 by 8. So I want this to be the main portion. So I'm going to line that up at 8 there. And then I will cut this down as well. So, and I think I might, because I really like this pink here, I think I'm going to cut this down on this side to give me my 8 by 8, because I still have a nice big portion of this one left here. Okay, so I'm going to just move those out of the way. So this is our main piece, and then I'm going to cut this one down to 6 by 6. Now I'm going to try to do this so that I cut off just in this pink area. And I like that because then I could always go back and use this for something else on there. So, and I think I might cut down this way. No, I'm going to cut down this way first. And I might just try and cut this out so that I don't cut that apart either, in case I want to use that for something. So I'm going to use my ruler that's on here to cut my 6 by 6 here. So 6 there, and then I think I'm going to flip it over here, and we're going to do 6 this way. And there's my inside piece for the mini book. Okay, so now we have to take our two pieces and we're going to score and fold them. And like I said, you don't need this scoreboard. You could just fold them. And actually maybe, let me give that a try. Let's just fold them. I am gonna use my bone folder, but because I know I just want it to be half and half, I think it's probably easier just to fold it so that you don't have to worry about, you know, if you didn't cut exactly the same on each side. So if I would have gotten this 5 and, you know, 15/16 on one side and 6 inches on the other, then it might not score and fold evenly. So I'm just going to fold one way and then the other way. And we're going to do that on both of these pieces of paper. And I'm just going to try to line them up as best I can. So there's one. And then for this one, we're going to do the same thing. And I want, now see, I didn't fold that right, but that's okay. I think we'll be all right. Let me try to do a better job of lining this side up here. There we go. Okay, so now I have my base pieces ready to go. Okay. Now we're ready to put our book together to make the pages, to make it actually look like a book and not just a square piece of paper. Now to show you how to do this, I just got a scrap piece of paper that I kind of wanted to show you what it's going to be like so that you can decide where to make your cut. So I'm going to just put these over on the side for a second. And I just have this piece of paper and I'm just going to mark it top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, just so you can kind of get an idea. So if you have some patterns or something on your paper and you want to cut them a specific way, you can. Now, you know, but this will work regardless. You may just, you know, if you have something that's right side up or upside down, it might, you know, turn a little bit. So what I'm going to do and what our cut is going to be to make this work is we're going to cut one of the folds all the way up to the center, but not past. So I'm just going to cut between my two bottom panels right to the middle. Now, obviously, if this is turned, you know, any way, you could see it look different. So this is what's going to happen. So when I put my book together, we're going to fold it back, the top pieces back, and then our bottom flaps are what will become our side, our front, and our back covers. So you can see as I fold this around and then I'll open it up and show you. So now we have our mini book base. So when I open this up, you can see my bottom left is turned clockwise, I think, by 90 degrees. And so same with my top left, and then the top right and the bottom right are turned counterclockwise 90 degrees. So that's how it's going to turn out. So if you're looking at your pattern paper that you're using, you may want to decide, you know, I want to turn this way or this way to make my single cut. So that's kind of just what I wanted to show you. So let's actually do this one first. And I'm going to lay this out here like that so that as I'm talking to you, I can figure out which way I want to do it. So if I have this as my top left, I know that it'll end up 90 degrees this way, and that might be okay. But if I go like this, if I have this down here, so now I've tilted the whole thing, like if this, you know, this is kind of right side up, those flowers are going this way, I'm going to turn it 90 degrees counterclockwise, and I think I'm going to cut it there because I know that when I do that, my bottom left will kind of be right side up then, because it'll be turned 90 degrees clockwise, if that makes sense. So let's just give it a try. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to cut right here on this line. And if you have fully patterned papers, it doesn't matter as much, obviously. You can just cut one of the sides and not worry about it. And this really doesn't matter either because we're going to be adding decoration and things as well. So okay, so then to fold it, just so we remember, now this is the 6x6. We're going to do this with the 8x8 as well, but it's the same premise. So you're going to take your top pieces, you got your flaps at the bottom, and you're going to fold the top pieces back, and then you're going to fold each of the flaps over on top of itself there. And now you can see this is the inside booklet, and my flowers right here are right side up. Now when I come over here, they're upside down, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Okay, and then this is obviously open, and we'll close those in a minute. So I'm going to just put this aside and we'll do the other one. So same thing here. I would have to decide, you know, kind of how I want this to be done. And for this one, I'm not going to worry so much about it. So I'm just going to cut one of the flaps or one of the folds up to the center and try not to go beyond. And same thing. So we're going to fold the top pieces back, and then we're going to fold the flaps, the cover pieces over and over. So there we go. Now I have my base part of the book, the big one, and a little one. So we're going to be adding these together to make some more fun pockets and flips and things as we go. So I am going to grab my bone folder again and just make sure all of this is folded down nicely before we get going. Okay, so now you'll notice, now that we have our base pieces ready to go, that if you use single-sided pattern paper like I did, that your front and back covers, you know, are white there. We're going to cover those, so don't worry about that, but we're going to do that a little bit later after we do some more fixing of everything together. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is how we put the rest of this together, because obviously all we've done is fold things, and it would come apart if we just left it like this. So the neat thing about this kind of fold is that we can make these pieces a pocket, and you can do a pocket either on the top or the side, depending on where you glue or sew your pieces together. So for my bigger piece, my base piece, I think I want the pocket on the side. So if I want the pocket on the side, I will close up the other side. I'll close up the top so that my side is open. Now, if I wanted my pocket on the top, obviously, I would close up this side, and then my pocket would be here on the top. And this side will get closed when we do the cover. So you don't have to worry about that, but you want to decide which side of your middle page you want to close up to make your pocket. So like I said, I'm going to do the top. I'm going to close the top so that we'll have a side pocket here. But now my inside piece, which is also a little booklet here, and it's going to go right in here. I have to decide same thing, where I'm going to put my pocket. Now, because I already have, I'm going to put a side pocket for the big piece. I think for the small inside pages, I'm going to do a top pocket. So that means that I will close up this edge instead of the top edge to make a top pocket. And the other thing that I am probably going to do is I'm going to make little thumb notches in them. So I'm going to take my 1-inch hole punch, and so for my big piece where I'm going to have my side pocket, I'm just going to put a little thumb notch over here. And so this is why we want to kind of do all of our work before we actually start sewing things together, so that we don't get them messed up. Now, you can probably eyeball it better than me. I'm never really good at that. So I'm just going to make marks where I want it. And since this one is going to be a top pocket, I'm going to mark it right here on this side. And this one should be about 3 inches. So 1.5 inches is where I want the center to be. This one's 4. So 2 inches was my center. So I'm just going to make a little notch. It doesn't have to be big in both of these. Make sure I'm not punching through 2, which you could if you wanted to. Okay, so now it'll be a little bit easier to see where our pocket is over here. And same for this one. So this one we decided to do a top pocket, so we'll be able to put something in here, and we'll have a side pocket to be able to put something over here. And now if you want to, you could, if you were adding distress to these, you could do that now. So because this is so white, the back of my paper is so white, I probably will add a little bit of distress to the other side. So I'm just going to open this up and I'm going to add some distress where my thumb hole is there on both of these pieces. So while I was at it, I decided to distress all the edges and the folds. So I went ahead and went all the way around on the side that's going to be showing for each of these. And then I just folded it in half and did both of the flap edges as well as the inside crease, just so there was some distress on those as well. So now our booklet is ready to start putting some things together. So now, like I said, we're going to need some additional papers to do covers and to do some of the inside pockets and things like that. But I am going to go ahead and start putting this together just a little bit because I want to be able to have things in place as I start adding, you know, some of the additional pockets and things like that. So for my inside pages, so my little booklet here, I'm going to go ahead and do a stitch down this side so that we have our top pocket ready to go. The other thing that I might do is I might stitch across this top pocket just to have it kind of match, you know, everything as it's all together. So I'm going to go ahead and I will stitch across here first, and then I'll fold this in half and stitch down here so that I have that pocket together and ready to go. And then for this one, I'm kind of going to do the same thing. I'm going to stitch across here first before I fold anything together. And then I will stitch across the top part there to make our side pocket in the big base piece. Okay, I have my sewing done, so I'll show you that. So this is my top pocket, and you can see I did sew across the top edge first, and then I folded it over and did my side seam there. So I have my top pocket ready to go. And then for this one, I also sewed across the side edge of this before I sewed it together, but because the fold is down here, I just went ahead and sewed down the entire side of that one before I folded it together and did my pocket stitch there. So you can see I have my side pocket, and this one has some stitching on the back. This one does not, but that's okay. So now we have our bases ready to go. And I love how this is starting to come together. Now, as we start doing things, you can see that there's plenty of opportunity for you to create pockets and tucks all over the place with this. So when I put this in, you can decide where, you know, you want to put it. So this is the cover flap here. You could put this way on the cover flap, so that when you opened it up, you would have things to open up on this way, going this way, which would be interesting. Or what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this side so that it's kind of a book within a book here. So I'll be able to open it this way. And so this piece is going to be glued down to our booklet, but I am going to also make a little tuck spot out of this. So now this will be free form here. but you could certainly make more pockets and tucks with this as well. So because this is white, we are going to have to cover it. And I think I'm going to do that before we get it glued down. Now, the other thing that I'm going to do, just because this paper, so when I printed these digitals, I printed them on 32-pound paper, which is a little heavier than than just plain printer paper, but it is lighter than cardstock. So if I was using cardstock, I wouldn't do this step, but because this is a little bit lighter than cardstock, I want to reinforce these covers a little bit. Now, I'm not going to do that here, because the inside pages are already going to be protected by the book itself. But for the outside pages, I think I'm just going to find a couple of, extra book pages that I have, because I always have those lying around, just to give this some extra weight. So we're going to cover them with pattern paper in the end, but I am going to put down some additional papers on the front and the back, just to give them a little bit of additional weight or protection there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Okay, I have my covers reinforced a little bit. We are going to cover these up as well. Now, before I go any further, the next thing I want to do is add any kind of closure that I would want. So once we put the covers on, we won't be able to add a closure unless you just want to tie it up, or you don't have to do any closure. So this part is, once again, entirely up to you, however you'd like to do it. But I think what I'm going to do is I think it would be fun to have a closure, and I've decided to use my seam binding. So I think it would be fun to have a closure that went, so my book opens this way. I thought it would be fun to have a closure that kind of went this way. And I may do it on the front end of it, so that it ties over here. I think that might be something fun to try. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of this. I'm going to measure it to just kind of be sure that I have enough to tie a bow in it or something. Okay, so I think if I cut down here, I probably will be good. And then I'm going to add some color to it. I think that might be nice too. You could certainly leave it plain if you wanted to, but I'm going to take a little bit of this Distress ink and move this stuff out of the way here. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little, I'm going to just put it down on my deli paper here, take my Distress ink and just kind of add some color to both sides. So let's see if I can do this without getting blue all over myself, which I probably will, but. And then I'm gonna do the other side and then I'll do this end. So get the back side done. Oops, it doesn't have to be perfect. Sorry about that. Whoa. I really knocked you over. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, and then just finish off these edges here. I can get this to lay flat. And then something else that I like to do is sometimes I like to crinkle it up a little. So I'm just going to add a little water to this. And my fingers are probably going to get messy, so I'm going to use this to kind of crinkle this up. And then I'll actually let this dry. I think I'm going to put this in a clean one, because I might be getting some browns on there, but I don't mind that either, actually. That looks kind of cool. So I'm just going to crinkle this up like this. And before I put this on, I am going to let this dry a little bit. So I'll be right back when that's dry. My ribbon is dry, and now I'm going to make sure I have my book opening the right way. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to find the center here, and I'm just going to glue this down just like this, so that when we put our cover on, we will have a closure ready to go. So I'm just going to move this for a second. And we'll put this right here. And you can see I kind of flattened it out. You know, you could use ribbon, or, you know, you could even use string or something like that. But just remember that because this will be under the cover, you know, you might have a lump or something like that. So you may just want to be careful on how you do that. So this is basically how it's going to open, like this. And then this will be ready for closing right on the front here. Okay, so we'll just keep that out of the way as we continue to go here. Now, the next thing we want to do, I'm going to move this out of the way, kind of let that glue dry over here as well. For our inside cover, now I had said I'm going to glue the back flap down into my bigger album there, my bigger little notebook there. So this side I'm going to need to cover. And the other thing is, because this side is open, we are going to want to seal this up too, so that there's nothing, you know, coming out there on that side. Now, I decided to use this leftover piece of paper for my cover for this. And what I'm going to do, now I know that this is 3 by 3 because our original paper was 6 by 6. So I know this is 3 by 3, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut, it's already 3 on the top here, but for the length, I'm going to cut it a little bit over 3. So maybe like 3.5 or 3 3/4, or because I think I want to wrap this around, because I don't want that flap coming out of the edge. So, whoops. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to start this at 4 inches, and I'll cut it down if I want to cut it down some more, but I want to be sure I have enough to fold it over. So before I put this on, I am just going to add just a tiny little bead of glue right to this edge here, so that we can close that part up. So I'm going to use my glitter glue, because it's always, my glitter glue is good for precision. If you want to be sure your glue gets into a place where you want it. You can see I can add a pretty nice straight bead of glue right to the edge there. And then we'll just push that down just gently. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add this piece to this side here. So now when I do that, I think what I'm going to do, just to be sure, I'm going to add some distress to this side as well, to the edges. So on the white side, I'm just going to add a little bit of distress around here to make sure that if I am not exact when I put the paper down, we'll just have nice distressed edges showing. And I'm going to distress this piece as well. And I'm just going all the way around just because it's easier. Okay. So now you can see when we put this on here, it goes well over the edge, and we're going to fold it around. So I'm going to glue this part down first, and then we'll do the fold so that I have it exactly how I want it. Now you could just do a 3x3 piece there. That's not a problem at all. And you could just, you know, make sure the edges are distressed there as well to make that work. So I'm going to go ahead and use my glitter glue since it's sitting right here. And I'm going to open this up so I know where the glue goes. And now if you were working with cardstock, you could make this another pocket or something if you wanted to. So you could, you know, just put glue around 3 edges and then you'd have another pocket here. But because mine is not cardstock, I think I'm just going to make this a full coverage on this one. Okay, so now I have my front done, and now I can easily fold it over so that that's on the back. And I do think I am going to cut it down a little bit. That's a lot hanging over. And I may, when I put this part down, I'm going to have a little bit of a lump there. So I think I'm just going to cut off so that there's like maybe a 1/4 of an inch or so, maybe 3/16 or something, 3/8, I don't know, something like that, left over on the edge. And then I'm just going to glue that down. Okay, and let's let that dry for just a second as well. Okay. Now we can start putting this together. And I said I'm going to put mine, you can put it, you know, anywhere you want, but I'm going to put mine after the cover opens. So this is where I want to glue mine down. Now I also want to make a little pocket out of this side. And because this one is 3 inches long, I only have about 1 inch left over here. So I think I'm going to cut this part down so that my pocket that I make here will be a little bit smaller and you can see whatever I, you know, put in there better. So I'm going to use my cutter for this one so that it's, you know, definitely straight. And I think I'm going to leave this to be about 2 inches or so. Let's see how that looks. Oops, I got to measure 2 inches from there. I knew that. So 2 inches from my center line. I think that looks about right. So then I'll have a much bigger space to add my pocket to over here. So you can see now I have all this room, and plus it, you know, unhides some of that pretty paper there. Okay, and I'm just stressing this again. And I think what I might do is add some edges to this one. So I'm just going to take my Crop-A-Dile corner chomper, and I'm just going to add some scalloped edges to this. Just like that. So that might give some indication that there's a pocket there. And I'm always cutting things down and having to go back and re-distress things. Okay, so that's how that is going to look. And I like that a lot. Now, before you glue this in, just one note to be sure. When you glue this in, make sure that your seam here for your inside booklet here doesn't go right up against the seam for your big one, because you'll have a problem closing it if you get too close. So leave about 1/8 or so of an inch. That way you won't have to worry about your main booklet having a problem closing on top of this booklet. Okay, so now what I'm going to do to glue this down is, because I want this to be a pocket, I'm only going to glue on the 3 sides here. So I'm going to leave my scalloped edge open so that I can put something in there as a little tuck spot. I think that would be fun. Now, the other thing that you could do, which I may do as well through the magic of video, is I think I'm going to sew around this as well. I think that would look fun. Since I have some stitching throughout here, I think I'm going to add some stitching to this pocket before I glue it down. So I'm just going to stitch all the way around the 3 sides, and then we'll glue it in. Okay. And now I have that all sewed together, and I like that a lot. I think that'll look very nice in here. Okay, so now I'm going to glue it down. So what I'm going to do is take my glitter glue again, and I'm just going to do my 3 sides here. So this side, my center seam side, or center fold side, and the other side there. Okay, so now very carefully, I'm going to put this where I want it, and I'm going to make sure that it's about 1/8 of an inch in. I think that's a little high, of course. We might have to go with it. I don't want to smear it down and end up with a pocket that's closed, glued closed. That would be my luck. Okay. It's not quite centered, but that's okay. And I'm just making sure that I've pressed down the seams. So you can see there I have a little bit of a gap between my center fold of the big part of the booklet to the little part here. So that folds no problemo, and that's what we want there. Okay, so now we have a pocket here, we have a page here, we have a pocket here, we have a page here, and we have a pocket here on the side. And then we have this big pocket on the side here too. So it's really coming together with some nice pockets and folds and all sorts of things here. Okay, so now we need to decide what to do on the other pages. So I have 3 additional pages in this booklet that we could do something with, and you could certainly stop here if you wanted to, but I have this front piece here that I think would be great with a pocket. I have a back page here that would be nice with a pocket as well. Then I also have this page here that, once again, you don't have to do anything with, but I thought it might be fun to do maybe an envelope here or something. So let me look through my papers. Let me put some of this stuff away. The papers that I have left over, and let's see if there's anything that might be fun as a pocket, or I'm sorry, an envelope there. Now, you could use a ready-made envelope if you wanted to. I think having some of this green might be fun, but I don't think it's big enough. So I think I need a 5x5 piece of paper to make the envelope that I want to make. So let's see, I could go with this. That might be fun. And then I would have some of the green left over to maybe do some ephemera with. But I could also do maybe this yellow. Actually, I think I'm going to do that one. I think that would be nice. So I'm going to make a little envelope from this yellow one, and I'm going to show you how I do it on my my scoreboard. So it's a kind of a little bit of magic that makes it nice and easy. So I'm going to use this scoreboard. Let me grab a scoring tool there. And then if you have a scoreboard like this, you can make envelopes, and you might have a tab board that you can make an envelope or something like that. But this is what I'm going to use because this is what I have. So it tells you how to start with, you start with different sizes here, and then you score the lines and can make an envelope. So I have my little, my little sticky note here because all they tell you is the envelope sizes in code. So A6, number 1, 4 bars. They don't really tell you how big they end up being. This is just the page that you start with, but it doesn't really tell you how big the envelopes are when you're done. So I'm going to use my little cheat sheet here. So if I want to make a envelope that is 3 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches, I need to start with, so that's a number 1 envelope. I need to start with a 5.5 by 5.5 piece of paper. Now, that I know is going to be perfect because my sides are 4 by 4. So I know that anything smaller than a finished size of 4 by 4 is going to be good. So the number 1 envelope is perfect for this. So before I get started, I have to get my 5.5 inch by 5.5 inch piece of paper. And let me see, because I think I want to try to, actually it's probably not going to matter since we fold it all. The rose is not necessarily going to show the way I might want it to. So I'm just going to cut this 5.5 by 5.5 to get started. Okay. So then the next thing I need to know is where to score. So there's 4 different lines that we're going to score on this square piece of paper. The first one is going to be 2 inches and then 2.5 inches. So I'm just going to line up one corner, down at the bottom here. And then I'm going to score at 2 inches. So right there. And then you turn it 90 degrees and make your B line score. So I turn it 90 degrees and I'm going to score at 2.5. Turn it 90 degrees, go back and score your A line. And turn it one more time and do your B line score, which is 2.5 for me. Okay, and then, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you end up with score lines and these little triangles where the lines cross have to be cut out. But you can see the rectangle in the middle is what that's going to be the size of our envelope when we're done. So I'm just going to cut these out. Okay, and then to make our envelope, we just fold everything in. And then we can decide what side we want to be the top and what side we want to be the bottom. And I definitely like the yellow on top there. Now you could leave it like this, but the other thing that I like to do is I like to make a score. I like to cut across the envelope, this little piece here. I like to cut it right where these lines meet. So where this fold comes in here, right there, and where this fold comes in here, I'm going to make a little line and I'm going to cut right across there. Okay, so now you can see I have a sort of more normal looking envelope there. I just like to do that. So now the other thing that I like to do when I make envelopes is I like to round the flap a little bit. So, you know, it's very pointy. So let's take my corner rounder here and give it a nice round edge. And I like the way that looks as well there. Okay, now the other thing that you can do or not do is distress your inside. So this is very white. So I'm going to add some distress, you know, down to about halfway, because that's really all you'll see when it opens up. So I'm going to grab my paper and distress away. All right, so now we can glue this thing together. And I think if you don't have an envelope maker or can't make an envelope this size, I think this would still be a lot of fun to just maybe put like a coin envelope in, or just another pocket, I think would be fun as well. So I'm just going to add some glue on the sides here. And actually I didn't go far enough, so I think that is closer to the edge. Maybe I will put the glue up here like this. And there we go. Okay, so we have one page covered. Now I just have to do the front and the back inside covers. So I think what I'm going to do is on the front cover, I'm just going to make a side pocket here. So I'm taking this piece. I like how the yellows kind of come together here. And I'm just going to cut off this trim edge for a moment. And just sort of cut this out. Yeah, I'll just cut that apart. Okay, and then this is going to be really wide if I leave it, you know, this size. I want about the same thing, like 2 inches or so, kind of like we did over here, to give me plenty of room to put something in there. So I'm just going to cut this down as close to the edge of the flower as I can, and then I'll see if I can get, looks like I can definitely get 2 inches out of this. So I did a little bit less because I figured it would be nice just to sort of center the flower on there. And now I have to cut it down to my 4 inches tall. So I'll start, ooh, that's going to be 4 inches. So I'm just going to take off maybe a little bit off the bottom and then cut it down to 4 inches on the top. And for some reason, I did not measure that right because there's a lot left over there. So I'm going to pull off just a little bit more. Yeah, I don't know why that's off, but I'm sure it was probably my fold I did wrong or something like that. So, okay. So this is going to be my side pocket here as I open. And then while I still have the cutter out, I'm going to do the back one as well. And this one, I think I'm going to, on the back cover, I'm going to use this green because it contrasts nice. And I'm just going to cut a little corner pocket. So like a little triangle corner pocket there. So I'm just going to cut some of this out. And make sure it's at least 4 inches. And then I will measure it down. So I like that these flowers are on here. So I'm going to put this in the corner and make some marks. So because I just cut a big piece, I'm going to need to make some marks. And I don't know, just put this out of the way for now. Okay. So I want my corner piece to go all the way to the top of the booklet. So I'm going to make a mark up here. That's going to be the top. And then I also want it to go pretty much all the way over to the middle fold, but I am once again going to leave about 1/8 of an inch from the fold line so that we don't have to worry about anything happening there. So now, because I have these 2 marks, I know I want it to go this way and this way up to those points. I can take my cutter and cut my triangle out. So I'm just going to put my 2 marks on my cut line here. Kind of like I cut the envelope flap. And we're going to hold that as tightly as we can and just cut that right down. And this should give us a nice pocket right there. Perfect. I do like that a lot. Okay, so now I have all my pieces cut for my inside pages. So my envelope is ready to go. I have this pocket ready to go, this pocket ready to go. This we're going to glue into here in a minute, but I'm going to get the rest of these ready. So I'm going to do the same thing that I had been doing. I'm going to distress around all the edges of these, and then I'm going to sew as well. Now I do think I'm going to sew my front and back covers when I put the actual cover on the top. So when I sew this time, you'll see I'm just going to sew down the edges that aren't on the outside edges of my booklet. So I'm just going to sew down this one because when I sew around the entire cover, I'll pull these in as well. And same with my back piece. I'm just going to sew down the diagonal portion because these 2 sides are on the edge of my cover. So we'll distress first and then we'll sew. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in, and I don't mind sewing over glue with my sewing machine, but if you're not comfortable with that, you can wait to put these in until we do the cover. So I'm just going to use just the tiniest bit of glue. Actually, I should probably do it on here, to hold this in place until we get to the point where we're putting on our cover. So I'm putting this one, let me just make sure I got myself together here. Move my closure out of the way. And we're just gonna add that to the back. And we'll put this one, once again, on the 3 sides that don't have stitching. Just to hold this in place. Okay, and then we'll let those dry. I'm gonna wait to put this in until the end. I think it'll be easier to sew if I don't have this, you know, clogging up, even though it's just the covers. I think it'll be easier if I don't have that in. So while this dries for just a second, let's go ahead and pick our covers. Now I have, once again, all these papers here that I've kind of been using. So I was thinking that it might be good to add some blue to the front, since I have this blue seam binding that we're adding for the closure. I thought that would kind of pull things together. So I'm just looking at some of the places where I have some blue. That might be too much blue. I think I do like this. So actually I was thinking about this or this might be nice. And actually this blue might match a little bit better with my seam binding here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a portion of this and maybe see if I can get a lot of blue out of it. And your covers don't have to match. So I'm going to do a front cover and a back cover that might be different patterns, but you don't have to do that. The other thing that I wanted to mention about the cover is I'm going to be adding the backing here. I'm going to be adding fabric to it. So on our spine, that was the word I was searching for and couldn't find. So I'm going to be adding fabric on the spine. So I just want to cover the front and the back, and I don't need to worry about this because we're going to use fabric to cover that up. So, but you could just cover the whole thing in paper if you wanted to. Just a note, you might think, well, it's probably going to be 8 by 4 since it's, 4 and 4, but because we've added some thickness with our inside booklet and our pockets, and once we get ephemera and stuff in there, you might want to make sure that you add a little bit to your width if you're just using one piece of paper. So you might want to kind of do it the same way we did this. Glue your paper down here, leave it nice and long over here, wrap it around, and then glue on this side so that you know that you'll be making the edge correctly. So I would say it's going to be at least an 1/8 or 8 inches plus an eighth of an inch. Boy, that was a tongue twister, wasn't it? So 8 inches plus an 1/8 of an inch if you're going to use one piece of paper across the whole thing. But like I said, I'm going to use 2 different ones. I think it'll be more fun. Now, I am going to, I think, cut this apart a little bit. See, now I'm still deciding. I don't know. I kind of like the idea of using this one because it's a little bit more plain on the front. And when we add a title, that might be kind of nice. So I think I am going to use this one for the front. Maybe I'll use this one for the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this down to be about 4 by 4. And I'm going to, once again, just kind of cut things out so that I can save some space here. So I might cut this down a little bit further because I definitely don't want this cover piece to go over the edge. So now I have to look at this here. This is my front. I definitely want it to be as tall, but it's okay if it's a little bit short because our fabric will cover it up when we do the spine. So this is 4 inches, but I'm just going to take it down a little bit to like 3 3/4. And then this way, I definitely had wrong. My 4 inches here. So this should cover this nicely. And you can see I do have some space towards the spine, but that's where our fabric is going to go, and that's okay with me. So I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to cut this one down approximately 4 by 4, probably a little bit short towards the spine. Okay, I have my cover pieces ready to go, and I'm going to distress them first, as usual, as per my MO, and then I'm also going to sew them. So let me just tell you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to distress them first, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, once again, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right in the middle and put this on so that it will hold right in place where I want it to go. And then I'm going to sew just around the 3 edges here. I don't need to sew down the middle because once again, our fabric is going to be covering that part. So I'm just going to sew, like this is the back side. I'm going to sew these 3 edges, and then for the front piece, the same thing. However this goes here, I'm going to make sure I don't sew in my pages and then I'm just going to sew around the 3 sides there. So we'll distress and we'll sew, and we'll be right back. Okay, so here's how my cover is looking. I really like the stitches around the outside edges. I think it sort of pulls everything together, and now you can see my pockets are completely stitched in now and ready to go. Now, the last thing is I wanted to put on my envelope, so I'm going to do that real quick. And because this is a nice big piece here, I think it would be fun to make this a pocket. So it's going to have an envelope here that you can put something in here. And then we're only going to glue 3 sides so that we'll have a pocket here as well. So once again, let's just do our outside edges. Whoa. And we'll put that right down here. Once again, you might want to be sure that you're leaving some room by the fold so that your envelope doesn't get stuck there or doesn't, you know, get crinkled up in the fold. So I have, once again, about 1/8 of an inch from the fold is where I put this envelope in there. Okay, so now, I mean, I don't have my ephemera ready yet, but now we have a nice big pocket up here for more stuff. So we have a pocket here, we have a pocket here, pocket here. We have a pocket here. We have a big pocket on the side here. And then we have another pocket here and one right in the front. So lots of fun pockets inside this, and you could keep going. You could add another triangle to here, or you could add a pocket here or something. So there's definitely more that we could do if we wanted to as well. So now the last bit here before we do any decoration is I'm going to add my spine. And I'm just using a piece of scrap fabric that I thought matched with what I have going on here. And I've cut it down, or I've torn it down to about 2 inches wide, which is what I want to do there. And then I have to tear it down again so that it's about the height. Now, I'm probably going to let some of the frayed edges hang off the bottom just because I like that look. And then I'm going to cut the top the same, you know, leaving some frayed edges at the top. So it's going to be a little bit bigger than my 4 inches probably as I finish this off. So let's see what we got here. This is really fray stuff, so I might put that at the back. Okay. So there we go. You can see how my edges are off just a little bit, but I like the way that looks. And I'm going to try to do it as best as I can, half and half. So I think the easiest way to do that is to start with some glue on the spine. So I'm just going to very carefully put a bead of glue right on the outermost part of the spine there. And I'm going to fold this in half with the right sides together. And I'm just going to place it onto the spine, and that should give me pretty close to an even spine on both sides. So now before I let that go, I think for this I'm going to use my 3-in-1 glue for the rest of the spine here. And I'm going to just kind of see where this comes out to, so I kind of know how much glue to put on. And before I push this down, I am going to just use my finger to smooth things out a little bit. And make sure everything's nice and flat. And then we'll do the same on the back. And now I can kind of see where I need to go for this side, since I can see where my fabric ends. And I'm just going to make sure I put a little bit more on the seam. Make sure my nice little threads are out here. And we will put that down as well. And we'll give this a second to dry. Okay, this is pretty dry. And now I just wanted to kind of show you the closure. So we have everything ready to go here. And I'm going to just show you what I was thinking, and hopefully this will work. So now we have a nice little place to put a bow right on the front here. And we could trim down these edges if we wanted to as well. But that's how you put together a little mini booklet here. And I am going to finish decorating it, and I'll be back to show you the finished product at the end. Okay, here it is, all decked out and ready to go. I really, really like how this one turned out. So you can see we have our closure here on the right-hand side, and I added a little gratitude book plate there on the front of this little mini booklet here. And I'm gonna just kind of show you what I added to it. So I just went through and put ephemera in all of the spots that we made. So in my first pocket here, I added just a little note card, and all of these are just gonna be note cards and tags with space to write on the back. I did add a couple bits of collage and some tabs and some fabric here and there just to kind of give it that junk journal feel that I like. So now my next page here, when you open it up, I added a little piece of vintage advertising with a book page on there. And then this was our top pocket, which we have a tag in there. And I have some fun little hole reinforcements on there. And then when you flip this over, I have Give Thanks with some cheesecloth behind it. I really like how cheesecloth frames and sort of softens up some hard edges on papers there. And then here was our side tag spot here, and that slips right in there. And then our next pocket is right next to that one. So I have a nice big tag in there with some fabric sewn onto the top. And then when you turn the page here, I have our envelope. Now you can see I did add a little envelope closure there to keep the flap closed. So here is the little piece of ephemera that I put into the envelope there. And then you just tuck the flap of the envelope into that little circle. And I have two tags in the back of the envelope pocket there. And then in the last pocket, I just added one square note card for the back there, and then one little tag for to go on top of that. And there you have it, my friends, a fun little gratitude flip notebook, folio, I don't know what you want to call this, mini book. I hope that you'll make one. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video, friends. Take care.